EX Ministries presents EXTV with your host and founder of EX Ministries, G. Craig Lewis, and co-host T-Ton Moffitt. EXTV has been established to equip, inform, and inspire the body of Christ with relevant information and biblical teaching. And now your host, G. Craig Lewis.
Blessings to all, and welcome to another episode of EXTV. We are here live at EXTV Studios, and we want to thank you so much for joining us. And you can join us here every Monday at exministries.com for a brand new episode. And we want to take this time to thank all of our partners, those that give to us, those that contribute to our ministry. We want to thank you so much for your gifts. It's because of your giving that EXTV is a reality. And now for our moment of truth with my co-host, T-Ton Moffitt.
Holy are you, holy are you.
Your spirit ain't ready, your church ain't ready, your bishop ain't ready.
There is no God but you.
Your ushers ain't ready at the temple of hip-hop.
Praise be the Lord.
Snakes try to stop this purified and holy hip-hop.
I mean, I put it like this, man. I'm authentically hip-hop. You know what I'm saying? I'm a part of the culture. It's what I know. It's what I was raised in. But I'm authentically Christian.
It is public record that hip-hop subculture was born November the 12th, 1974. However, in the early 1970s, the subculture took its cue from the 5% nations of gods in earth, the Zulu Nation, and other New Age and religious philosophies. Contrary to popular belief, its foundation has never changed but worsened. Hip-hop denies the supremacy of Jesus Christ as the only way to eternal life. Of course, we know that this mixture is in error because Jesus said that he alone is the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through him. In addition, these fathers shaped it around its artistic expression originally described as the 5 elements of hip-hop: DJ, breaking, MC, graffiti art, and the knowledge or the God consciousness. This movement in the late 70s also was the prelude to the civil rights movement, a new era for black youth, a generation who, from the most part, were either abandoned by their fathers or victimized by poverty and gangs.
Assalamu alaikum. First of all, I want to say that this is my first Savior's Day, and I'm very, very honored to be here. Now, y'all know I'm here representing the hip-hop community as well as the black community. And one thing in the hip-hop community, we very influential from what we say and what we do. And we don't really have a leader. We don't really have nobody who we can go to when we have a situation that's a problem. But me, as the leader of the hip-hop community, I always go to Minister Farrakhan because the minister has always been there for the hip-hop community.
Hip-hop was birthed out of lack and oppression, and the youth began to express these feelings more and more, essentially becoming the sounding board or platform for explicit speech and anti-establishment teachings against American society. Outside the arts, the root of hip-hop subculture is rebellion, and are similar to the other subcultures with an anti-establishment, down with the man mentality. Fatherlessness, rebellion, oppression, anguish, poverty, violence, and other negative influence create this subculture. Zulu Nation's customs, black Muslims' teachings, and other false religions establish the so-called positive aspect of hip-hop. Thugs, gangs, drugs, sex, and prison life make up the other overly dark facets of hip-hop. You must realize that God did not play a part in the creation, establishing, or foundation of hip-hop, so how can we drag him into it at this late stage? When KRS-One and African Bambaataa said they were visited by a spirit and the spirit influenced them to accept their calling into hip-hop, how can we embrace this subculture when its origins are evil, demonic, and destructive to society?
This idea was unheard of. Hip-hop itself said, what is KRS doing? He's starting a cult. He wants to be a messiah. Critics were saying, what is KRS doing? But I have to put that aside and say, you know what? What is best for the culture? I may die in the process, but what's best for the culture? Now, there's not many people that are willing to do that.
Hip-hop is worshipped more than anything. We hear the music. We all are inspired to do something, to move, to change, to do something. That's what religion does too. So hip-hop is the biggest one.
Yet today, the industry has found a way to profit off of it, while many of us from the church continue to promote it. There is no redemption for a subculture. Your youth pastor has lied to you. Ask the living forefathers. They'll testify. For a moment of truth, I am Teton Moffitt.
Hip-hop is a subcultural movement and cannot be compared to an ethnographic or demographic culture. A subculture is defined as a group with distinctive characteristics within a larger culture. Hip-hop is not a movement based on its own concepts, but it is a subculture that uses basic deconstruction of words and concepts to cause those that are a part of it to strive to be more visible in our present society. God is not concerned with our cultures. He wants to establish a place for us in the only true culture, and that is the kingdom of God. The Word of God says in Philippians 3:13, I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forth towards those things which are before. I'm Lois Burke, and this is your X Fact.
Thank you so much for joining us again here at EXTV. I want to first say special thanks to our co-host who's back this week with us, Teton Moffitt. How you doing, Teton?
Hey, what's going on? Good to be back. Nice little vacation.
Yeah, man. I hope you got a Trojan horse. But anyway, that's another subject. Had some time to work on that. But it's good to have you back. And, man, I mean, it's really not a whole lot to say after this moment of truth, man. I mean, I think you kind of nailed where we wanted to go with this thing because, you know, it seems like where we started as a ministry, 13, 14 years ago with the vision that God gave me for, what the music was going to do or what the culture of subculture of hip-hop was going to do, it seems like it's all starting back up again, like it's being revitalized or renewed, or like someone is pumping life into it.
Yeah, I took a little observation for the last couple of weeks, and of course, while I've been going through this documentary, and you're finding out that the language of hip-hop, the culture in itself, the root of the political expressions that hip-hop was, the platform that hip-hop used to communicate its thoughts and community issues, you're seeing a lot of the old heads really starting to become grassroots people. On YouTube, you see the African Bambaatas, you see the Davy D's, all the pioneers of hip-hop culture are now kind of like rallying up the troops. And so you have the Professor Griff exposing the industry, and you're seeing that the hip-hop that we've always been, addressing on a public scale is now losing money, is not getting the recognition, and now you're starting to see a consciousness or a revitalization of the core foundation of hip-hop subculture resurface.
Yeah, and that's kind of what happened, I guess, in the 80s, in 88, 89, when conscious rap jumped on the scene. It's like it tried to redeem the art form and make it less clubby and more conscious, where they talked about, their doctrine, they talked about religion and consciousness and those things. And now it seems like it's happening all over again. Like they are promoting that same religious element of it. And I guess people need to really know that we're not talking about a music genre here anymore. Right. And, we have proof of that. Even these guys themselves are saying that this is much, much bigger than that. It has become a full-fledged religion with its own Bible and everything, right?
Yeah, the founding fathers, those founding fathers that are still alive, as I made note to in the moment of truth, they're still alive. And so they're basically expressing, rewriting, redefining, and really facilitating the doctrines of the hip-hop subculture. And so it behooves you to think that a Christian rapper or somebody that wants to refurbish the subculture or redeem it would have anything to say about it when the founding fathers are still alive and they're still setting doctrine and the grand scope of the culture in place.
Now, where are they doing this? And I guess people need to know. I know I get a lot of emails and different things from people that go to historical black universities, and these are becoming courses that they can take, and they're actually teaching hip-hop in the historical black universities, as well as in the news and different social issues, like with the Trayvon and different things. It's like they resurface in those avenues or in those in the wake of those events kind of happening. But what is the end game for it? I mean, what are they looking to do? I mean, is it possible for this culture to actually stay revitalized and continue to make money, or are they just kind of, scurrying to try to keep it alive at the, because they know that it's dying out?
Well, in my opinion, I think there's a combination of things happening. I think the leadership, the elder statesmen who put the culture or the subculture in place are really trying to reclaim, I guess, their place, their identity. And as I stated many times before, hip-hop really doesn't raise men, it just recycles boys. So you got a 50-year-old man still trying to find his identity, a 40-year-old man who never held a real full-time job looking for an identity. So you have the older leadership that are, on one end, want their recognition. You have different sects of the subculture that still want to communicate its doctrine and empower the black man, because you got to remember the mainstream hip-hop, which is not the real identity of the hip-hop subculture, has basically made African Americans look lower than the common man. And that's just, I'm quoting something from a text, but you got this redefining the black man, changing the perception of the hip-hop subculture, and really, after Nas declared it dead, you really have a resurgence of a consciousness, and that consciousness, as we stated earlier, really has nothing to do with you sitting around just thinking about every and anything. It's about the whole idea of the 5% doctrine that the black man is God, and the realization that, you were the first man here on earth. And so that's really what I want to really tackle in our conversation, is the whole Islamic influx and the nations of gods in earth doctrine that's resurfacing as well.
Well, the black man has always looked up to Islam. Well, not always looked up to, but I guess when you wanted to see a tough, strong man, African-American man,
right,
it was usually Islam that would project those images. Because Farrakhan, when I was young, I had an opportunity to listen to a lot of Farrakhan's teachings, and, Farrakhan can preach. I mean, I'm just be honest with you. I mean, he can preach. I mean, his doctrine is flawed, definitely, but he can preach. But I think the problem I'm having, I understand that they want to bring in the Islam and bring in the religious element of it. But my problem is that, who do we call hip-hoppers? I mean, if KRS-One is saying this, if Africa Bambaataa is saying this, if these guys are saying that this is what hip-hop is, then what does that do for the Jay-Z's, or what does that do for the Q-Tips, or what does that do for guys like that? Because when I look at a Jay-Z who's just come out, he considers himself a hip-hopper, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's what he says. I just read a quote from Chuck D. Chuck D just basically recently released a statement and said Jay-Z and Kendrick Lamar, they're not a representation of true hip-hop. So you really have this older generation who laid the foundation, and we're going back to the 5% doctrine, who laid these spiritual principles and ideas in place to kind of cover it with what we call the 12 jewels. The knowledge, the wisdom, the understanding, freedom, justice, equality, and they had food, shelter, clothing, love, peace, and happiness. And so you have a generation of, older hip hoppers, or what I say, older men that really trying to get a check. I mean, if you really want to get down to it, they try to get the royalties. And so they're claiming something that really belongs to them, and I wish they would just take it and get rid of it for good. But unfortunately, that ain't going to happen.
Well, okay, so I'm back to my question, because this is what I'm curious about. I watched a portion of a documentary about the Tribe Called Quest. They had gotten all the artists, Queen Latifah, Brand Nubian, Poor Righteous Teachers, Leaders of the New School, all those different guys together and called themselves Native Tongues. And they were promoting black awareness, black pride. They were promoting, I guess, all of the social conscious positives of hip-hop. But yet and still, their music had explicit language. They had explicit lyrical content. Their music was sexually degrading. So they talked about these kinds of things in their music. So I'm wondering, how conscious can the music be, and you still have those elements that are hurting the African-American community?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good question. I think that, when you talk about the consciousness, again, the consciousness meaning that they're gods. So if they're gods and their rightful understanding of who they are, then they should have the ability to do as thy will. So to them, it really means nothing to them, in my opinion. I mean, you can do what you want to do and still be righteous. And that's some of the pillars that I found, or some of the hypocrisy that I found in the nations and gods of the earth. And if we could just cut away and take a look at this video clip here. It's a short part of a documentary that I found putting together this project. And I want to just kind of segue to that so we can really, so to our listeners and our viewers can really see the core elements of what hip-hop is really made up of.
We have been ingrained in the fabric of hip-hop since the beginning. Since back in the days of Cold Crush and Grandmaster Flash and all. When you hear people saying peace in hip-hop, that's started from the gods.
Word up. Drop that sign, so blow the squad up, as we say, he dropped a bomb on him. We was dropping bombs. We was out there told him, he dropped a bomb on him. You heard that, guy?
When they talk about chilling in a b-boy stance and all of this, chilling like this, a b-boy stance is actually comes from the gods standing in a truth of square. Okay, let me just demonstrate for you real quick. A truth of square is when you just stand there with your feet at a 45-degree angle and you standing right over left. The gods would be at the block parties standing in a truth of square, and then the 85s would see this and just think it's a cool way to stand.
The words is power. Have you not heard that your words should be bombed regardless of whom or what? Words are power. That's a question that we ask in our lesson. Words is power. So when we use the word, we say that one word can change a nation.
As far as 5% Nation's influence on hip-hop, we had the Supreme Team. We had Lord K1 from the Force MCs. Then we had the brother Born Unique from Fresh 3 MC. We had Just Ice.
Raheem with Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5.
Then, of course, we had the God Rakim, who was a major influence on my life. Then you had brothers like Sir Abu, Positive K, Big Daddy Kane. Then you had Poor Righteous Teachers. Then you had Brand Nubian.
Rakim Shabazz.
You have even Busta Rhymes, King Son. You got people like Roxanne Shante and Roxanne. She said, you think you a god, but you do eat love. Of course, the entire Wu-Tang Clan. And now we have Lord Jamar and the 5% album.
Original man is first. I wanna say peace to the gods and the earth. A universal fan, living out the universal plan. Hey yo, tell them who I am.
And in America, Satanism is sensationalized and kind of misunderstood, and people associate it with worshiping the devil and things like that. But it's really a philosophy about individuality and self-preservation. It's about, being your own God.
So basically, that kind of just says what we've been saying in the last 10 videos, that Marilyn Manson, who is the high priest of the Church of Satan, said that Satanism is about being your own God.
That's right.
And so the hip-hoppers are saying now that they are gods, which they've been saying this since the intermingling of the nations of gods and earth. But the whole premise, even in our DVD, What Every Church Should Know About Hip-Hop, we showed Russell Simmons and Reverend Dr. Ron Simmons.
How much did you hate that?
Both,
Pull it back down, do what you
pastor,
want.
both saying
that's what hip-hop is.
In hip-hop, we do what we want. So basically, they're saying that they just make their own rules as they go, and they dictate what is, what right is, I guess, and what righteousness is.
Yeah, I mean, this is really interesting because we're in a time and space where this is being documented. We have the information before us. We're not making anything up, and that's what I love about research and the material that we do here, because we have the information right before you. And so when you look at the context of the culture or the subculture, this stuff that they're talking about cannot coexist with Christianity. The belief systems and the structure of this hip-hop subculture is beyond the arts. Now, I love art. I like to paint. I'm an artist. But to emphasize hip-hop as being my lifestyle or me being an authentic hip-hopper really contradicts my walk with Christianity. But one thing I wanted to point out, Craig, is in the Gospel of Hip-Hop, which I have here, I wanted to read this one little note that I have annotated here in one of the pillars of the Temple of Hip Hop, the first oversight of real hip hop, page 662, and it reads, "I am hip hop, and upon this faith, our belief in ourselves is hip hop. As hip hoppers, we can achieve truth." Now, we believe in ourselves. Through hip hop, we can achieve truth. Through hip hop, we have a paradigm by which to create ourselves and document our own body of hip hop knowledge and history. Our faith in ourselves as a community of conscious hip-hoppers in which we call hip-hop culture or hip-hop culture. And I wanted to piggyback off that because even when you spell hip-hop H-I-P-H-O-P, the definition or the term means creative force, in which we're a creative force in the world. It is our lifestyle and our collective consciousness. So with the dash, it means something else. With the capital H. So these guys are just creating as they go along. Mm-hmm. And so I have to stand on the opposing side when it comes to justifying a Christian hip-hop idea or a holy hip-hop idea when we're redefining something that was never put in place for a Christian to embrace from the very beginning.
Right, and like you showed Lecrae at the beginning, because I had several people email me because I guess I mentioned him in the last EXTV that we did. I'd said his name. And people, now I agree with everything you said, but man, when you came against Lecrae, I was shocked, because he's on your side. Y'all are doing the same thing. And I'm like, man, that dude ain't on my side. I'd love to see you tell Teton Moffitt that. But I tried to tell him, that we have nothing in common because we are totally against. And it's not just hip-hop. Please listen, people. It's not just hip-hop that we're against. We're against any religion that does not recognize Jesus Christ as the only way. And because hip-hop does not do that, and they select other gods, and in most cases refer to themselves as God, to make their own rules as they go, and you can tell they make their own rules because they don't make any sense. They fight against the social ills in the world, but they create the social ills in the world. So even with the clubs, they play beats and stuff to make women's booties shake. Okay, so how is that helping that girl? That's somebody's daughter. That's somebody's wife. How is that helping our community with you promoting the lust in the club so that everybody can go out, smoke weed, get high, have sex, have illegitimate children? And how are you enhancing the African American community? Because that's our biggest problem. So that's my thing. I don't understand how Lecrae or anyone will take hip-hop and say, I'm authentically hip-hop, knowing that hip-hop is attached to its own Bible, its own beliefs, and the consciousness of being God.
Yeah, I mean, in essence, you know, I could just only say that's the naive. I would say he's naive. I would say a lot of them are naive, or they just flat out been duped. Because when you look at just the terminology of the original hip-hop subculture, for example, when you say word is bond means something being the word or the knowledge that pertains to the information that was transmitted in the cipher. When you say son, when we call, and you got Christian hip-hoppers or Christian rappers using this language, I'm in the cipher. A cipher is really the completion of a 360-degree circle, which 120 degrees is knowledge, the other 120 is the wisdom, and another 120 is understanding. So these terminologies and these terms that are being used by this 40-year-old subculture is being utilized in the Christian faith and even in our simple conversations, you know. And so it's very disturbing, you know, when you have these gentlemen that I believe may love the Lord and they're genuine about what they believe concerning the gospel, but their vehicles that they're using and the ideology that they're using is so flawed. And so I'm glad we're able to have this conversation, number one, because to be able to revisit this dialogue to help people understand that we're not against rap, the act of rapping, spoken word. I mean, you know, but when we talk about the culture, the subculture, when you have 40-year-old grown men who, you know, I mean, it's amazing. How can your son, you look to your son and your son asks you, well, Daddy, what do you do for a living? Well, I just rap, you know. Well, I want to be a rapper when I grow up. So now you got a generation of grown men in Pampers running around entertaining people for the rest of their lives. So the hip-hop lifestyle does not forward adulthood. You know, you're constantly trying to prove yourself, to be identified and be accepted. And it comes from the fatherless generations 4 and 5 generations ago.
Yeah, it's part of that bastard curse. Right now, we're gonna take a short break, Teton, and we'll come back right after this.
Thank you for watching EXTV. We'll be back right after this.
Where do I begin? Oh, the plan of the serpent is fulfilled through those that he controls. When man seeks a higher order or desires to be a part of the ruling class, like Cain, he must use the power of the enemy. Yeah, you don't use God to be great in this life. No, you gotta go sign up with something. You gotta pledge something. God's music must originate with what? His intent. It cannot be a copy. 40 years old, ain't nobody married. Or everybody's divorced. Because we put worldly lust a high priority. The powers that be strategically create music that will put a mainstream message into people's minds and blind them to the truth. They would have no power if the church defined the roles of man and woman. Look at somebody say, wake up.
And now we're back with EXTV.
Our preservation, you know, we take a detour from everybody else in the world. Hip-hop is a shared idea. You can't touch it. You can't drink it. You can't wear it. You can't go to it. Yet we all know it. That right there is our genius. It's that one thing that hip-hop is actually understood psychically. The point is, where does hip-hop come from? If it's in your mind, and the same thought is in my mind, you see it your way, I see it my way, but it's the same thing. It has rules, it has tradition, it has form, we know what we're talking about. But the thing we're talking about is nowhere in physical reality. It's nowhere on earth. So how do you preserve an idea, not an artifact? The way you preserve an idea is on the religion side. Spirit side, metaphysical side, philosophical side, that side. We're dealing with ideas, intangibles. These hands can't grab hip-hop. There's another hand that can grab it, manipulate it, deal with it, and we do it every day. We rhyme, grab, break. We're drawing on that energy and manipulating it to whatever we want it to be.
How do you argue with that? I mean, that's what I want to know. How is holy hip hop? How are these guys arguing with the founder that is telling you that hip hop is a spirit, it's a being, it's an intangible energy that you manipulate to form? I mean, he just basically preached the Lords of Discord. I mean, how do you argue with that?
You have individuals that cannot give up what had them in bondage. I remember sharing the same testimony. You know, as the closer I got to God, the more I wanted to be like Christ, the lesser I desired who I used to be and what I used to do. And so, you know, you just have some under-discipled, hip-hop loving, you know, they don't know nothing else, as you've always said, they never held a job. And so their desire is to do anything and everything for Christ, but they're sincerely wrong about their approach. And so for many years, we've asked them to drop hip-hop. You know, we've even, you know, as you stated, you've had conversations, we've been on blogs, we've changed dialogue, and they just cannot let it go. And why can't they let it go? I think it's more than just relevancy. As stated, there's a spirit in them that will not allow them to really conform to Christ and put away these childish things.
Yeah, and when you try to take it from them, they get, you know, it's like kicking and screaming little kids. You know, you tell them, hey, man, you know, your earrings look like old house doorknobs. I mean, won't you... You know why you gotta sag your pants and show your underwear? And so, you know, this whole look, this whole swag, all of these things that they say they possess, and I want people to know, and I say it time and time again, but I want the audience that's listening to us to know, these are the identity stamps. These are the things that a father is put in place to help a man do, to develop as a man, to not wear what he shouldn't wear. You know, my son, sometimes, I mean, he dresses cool, he wears things, but every now and then, you know, I let him walk around the house with his do-rag on because he's trying to get some little waves in his head or whatever. But if he steps outside the house with that do-rag on, I'm going to hang him with it, because you're not going to walk around with a do-rag, you know, and look, you know, have that prison look, you know. But without a father there, a lot of these boys, that's all they know. And a lot of times the mother, when there's a single mom, she's trying to overcompensate for the lack of a father. So she can't, you know, bear down on him too much. And then she's a woman, so it's not even in her nature to do that. So we got these boys growing up using hip-hop as their father. And hip-hop is giving them identity. It's teaching them how to be a hip-hopper, a man, or giving them respect, the rapping. And so I guess the worst part of it is they're gaining respect for something they can do rather than who they really are. And that's what a father would do, give them a stamp of approval, an identity stamp to tell them who they are by showing them, you know, by example. This is who you're going to turn into. But hip-hop gives them like a superficial kind of swagger or whatever, and it causes them to get respect based on, you know, an element, a thing, or something, you know, like KRS-One was saying. And this is where these spirits actually come in them.
Yeah, I mean, as you already know, this came on the tail end of the civil rights movement, and before that time, you had strong male leadership, you had strong black men in the communities, and of course you had the drugs, you had the war, and you had all these things that took place that kind of wiped out that leadership during that period of the mid-'60s, late '70s, and so constantly a generation has been growing up without a father, and of course we know that hip-hop replaced the father in the home. As a matter of fact, I was reading Michael Muhammad Knight's book on the 5 Percenters, and he talked about how there's a chapter in there that explains how the 5% doctrine, or the 5%, and I'm paraphrasing, was a replacement in Harlem for the fathers. You had a generation of young African-American men growing up in that period of time that did not have a father figure in their lives, and so they were drawn to this idea of having an identity and connecting to this idea that you are a god and there's such a greatness and you're the Asiatic black man and the mathematics. And I just found out recently they have to read 120 books in order to get a certificate. 120 books.
Good gracious. So they are taking this, now what are the books about? Hip-hop?
They're everything from Why You Black to Why You Still Black. Just all kinds of books of nonsense and theology and mathematics, different religions and different types of New Age. Matter of fact, there's a video I want to cut away to. I think we've seen the video before. I featured this particular pioneer on several occasions. His name is Sadiki Baraki, and he basically, maybe he's seen thieves in the temple. I don't know, but we can cut away to this particular video because he explains the New Age ancient ideas and philosophies connected to Egypt and Comedics, and of course the Kundalini.
So when we talk about hip-hop, let's recognize that this is something that's old. This is something that's been a way of life for us as Africans. We take this thing all the way back to the Nile Valley. See, when we talk about hip-hop, we got to talk about the first person to even utter a thought, the first people to utter words, the first people to put anything together that was critical and analytical. In order to do that, we got to go back. We got to go back to ancient times. If you want to talk about, we call this graffiti today, right? Where they spray paint on walls or whatnot. But it can be erased. I'm talking about metal netter. Hieroglyphics, as the Europeans call them, right? We can go back there where you see it carved in stone, 2, 3, 4 feet deep in stone, and it still exists thousands and thousands and thousands of years later. That is hip-hop. That's hip-hop on a spiritual level, on a metaphysical level. When we talk about hip-hop, we got to talk about the drum. What's the drum? The drum is a manifestation of your heartbeat. That drum is in rhythm and in sequence with your heartbeat. So now we're talking about chakras. We're talking about Kundalini energy. We're talking about third eye. We're talking about what's beyond the physical. But what happens? What happens is when a foreign entity comes and enslaves your spirit, enslaves your heartbeat, enslaves your soul, your chakra, your Kundalini energy, when that possessing of spirit comes in, what you have is something that's on a physical level. So now what do we have? We have BET.
Wow. Yeah, so that is Lords of Discord, basically. That's what Lords of Discord was really about. He really summed it up. Basically something, whenever you hear the language being used, enslave, something comes in and enslaves your body and you tap into the energy or into your chakras, then you're talking about something manipulating you. And this is why the Lecraes and these guys, this is why they can't let it go, because they're being manipulated by it. In other words, there's a force behind them, pushing Reach Records and all these companies to do. These guys are not following what the Holy Spirit is telling them to do. They're following what these entities that have enslaved them is telling them to do, because it's easy, Teton, to get caught up in the beat. If the beat enslaves your heart, changes the way you oxygenate, changes your mind and your thought pattern, and begins to manipulate that the eye of your mind. So the Bible tells us that, if the gospel be hid, it's hid to those that are lost, whom the God of this world have blinded their minds. So these people have blind minds. They can't see where they're going because they're being manipulated by frequencies and different musical styles. And the artists know what they're doing. The artists know exactly what they're doing. The guys in the mastering rooms, they know what they're doing. These guys are paid a lot of money to put these spirits and to conjure this energy and different things. The sad part is that the Christians don't know what's going on. The youth pastors don't know what's going on. The pastors don't know what's going on, and they're inviting these things into their youth department, and then all of a sudden they got a bunch of teen pregnancies in there. They got a bunch of STDs in there. They got a bunch of things. All of the ills of our society are now happening in the youth groups in the churches.
Yeah, and Just to piggyback off of that, on page 102, I love looking at this information because it just kind of confirms what we've been talking about for many years. On page 102, the overstating of the redefinition, it reads, hip-hop is not just a music genre or some other kind of art form. Here, hip-hop is the name and divine nature of our present lifestyle. Hip-hop is the name of our ritual. It is the utterance of our being. And so the language that's being communicated, I think, around this idea or this thought of hip-hop subculture, I think this has to be communicated to this next generation. We have to keep hip-hop out of our churches. We have to be able to inform and to educate the body of Christ, not only about the hip-hop subculture, about the wiles of the enemy. I mean, Jesus even warned Peter, and just imagine if the apostles, Paul and Peter, were living today, and how would they contend for the faith? How would they address these very same issues that we are addressing now?
Yeah, and one thing Africa Bambaataa said, I want to definitely state this. He said that when he, came back from Africa and got enlightened by the being and whatever that gave him the idea for this Zulu nation and this movement, he said that it gave him peace, love, unity, peace, love, unity, and having fun. Okay? Now, they define the having fun as the party. Okay? So the partying, the weed smoking, the drinking, the butt shaking, the dancing, and then later on, that after all of that, the sex, all of these things is the fun that goes with the peace, the love, and the unity. Well, that's irresponsible. Okay? That's very irresponsible because and I believe it's irresponsible, and I believe it's the reason why the hip-hop community does not have a leader. Snoop Dogg saying, we don't have a leader. We have to go to Louis Farrakhan or whatever. Well, they don't have a leader because there's no one in hip-hop that can stand up and teach our communities against premarital sex. Isn't that the problem in our community? Isn't teen pregnancy the problem? Isn't fatherlessness the problem? Isn't having, bastard children? Isn't that the problem in our community? But which hip-hopper is going to stand up and preach against premarital sex, and they've got their music laced with it? You see what I'm saying? Which one's going to stand up against abortion? How many of these artists out there have forced women to have them? Because they're celebrities that they got the groupies and stuff. What about divorce? What about smoking? What about murder? What about violence? All these things that are plaguing our community, none of them can stand up and speak against it because they're all promoting it in their music.
Well, you can't get a Christian hip-hopper to address it because they're too preachy. They'll be called judging.
Yeah, well, and then they can't be called hip-hop. They'd have to be called Christian rap. And, boy, they hate when you call them that. Lecrae, like Christian rap. No, I don't do no Christian rap. No, man, I'm authentically hip-hop. And here's the saddest part. A lot of African-Americans, white people too, but a lot of African-Americans went out and voted for President Obama. They said, here's the black man that's going to save the black people. What does the President Obama do when he wants to look relevant? Did he go get Africa Bambaataa? Nope. Did he go get KRS-One? Nope. Did he go get Baka Shabazz or Sad Baccarat, whoever that was on that video? Nope. Obama's not promoting conscious rap. Obama went and got Jay-Z and Beyonce, Queen Booty Shaker.
That's right.
So,
matter of fact, they asked him, what type of music do your daughter love? Well, I love listening to Lil Wayne every now and then. Little Kanye is in my iPod.
Yeah. So they're promoting the conscious rap, the rappers, but the president of the United States is promoting the very thing that is destroying the African American community.
Yes, sir.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, Teton. I think that this is a very important subject. We can easily just say, well, we've covered that in part 1, 2, 3, Trojan horse, whatever. But we can't take for granted the call that God has given us to make sure people understand where this is right now. And it's right back in our faces right now. I'm some 13, 14 years older than when I first started, but I'm still seeing remnants of this coming back up, especially with the Trayvon Martin and all of these different things. Now they're talking about it. Active dialogue is happening about it again. And then, of course, hip-hop goes on trial and everyone is standing up to defend it. Don't blame it. but at the same time, we won't hold these black people, these black leaders and these black rappers and different ones, we won't hold them accountable for the content in the very music that they're giving our kids. Even though that they'll show a commercial on TV, and we know that TV commercial has power to influence in 30 seconds, but we won't hold accountable these artists that have 3, 4, 5 minutes of music that's promoting the very thing that are causing the ills in our community. So I think this is very important, and I'm glad you came on, and I know people will be blessed by this episode.
Yes, sir.
Now it's time to go back to the Word. The scripture we're coming from today, Matthew 12:33, and it says, either make the tree good and his fruit good, or else make the tree corrupt and his fruit corrupt, for the tree is known by its fruit. Hip-hop can't teach the one thing that could solve all of our issues in the black community, and that is fatherhood. Because hip-hop is a replacement for the father, it cannot teach our young men to be responsible fathers. Most hip-hop moguls have multiple kids out of wedlock, child support non-payments, multiple baby mamas, etc. They rap about getting women, sex, all of that. So they cannot do the one thing, they can't teach the one thing that could really help our communities, and that's how to be a father. Hip-hop gives the identity that a father should. We will continue to be plagued with issues as long as we depend on hip-hop to raise our black youth. God bless you. Now it's time for our trivia question for the week. In which DVD did I explain how we summon who we serenade, and what does that mean? Send your answers to extv@exministries.com, and you can have a chance to win one of our DVDs.
We hope you've enjoyed today's edition of EXTV. And don't forget, join us right here each Monday for a brand new edition. You can contact us at extv@exministries.com or call us at 817-764-3025. And please visit our product page for other great titles from EX Ministries. And don't forget, EXTV is made possible by your love gifts. With your donations, we can continue to bring you this great programming. So please make your donations today.